There you go. This is
We're
it.
live. We're back. Welcome to
We
the
are
show. Welcome to Table for 7 Billion. That's what the
yes,
reservation is.
one table, two tables.
Yeah,
We put 3 billion on one and four
right.
billion on the other one, right?
Yeah,
Like
and
we just like we
we have
used
a
to do at
slightly
Cesar.
smaller one for the kids.
Like we like we used to do at Cesar. We used to put 13 people in a small table, remember?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So I had a really fine time yesterday. Yesterday was our anniversary, our wedding anniversary,
Right.
and we drove up to Petaluma because
Oh, I love Petaluma.
yeah, I like it too. Alfie, my stepson,
Yep,
he
yep.
is up there running this restaurant, or he's running the beverage program for a restaurant that's at the Hotel Petaluma, and it's called the Shuckery.
Oh. Ooh.
And so we went there. We had drinks in the lobby of the hotel, and then we
Wow.
took a walk and came back and had dinner out in the little courtyard. And it was just fantastic. Really, really good food, great drinks, great wine. It was good, and Petaluma is just such a great little town, and
Oh, I know. Oh my
one
god.
of my favorite bookstores is there, so we went there, of course, and a good time was had by all. We've
I
been
want to
married
go.
we've
I
been
love
married
Petaluma.
24 years.
24 years.
Yeah.
You've been married the same time, you and Sydney?
Oh no, it's
The same
five
amount of
different
time?
people, but no,
Both
no.
of you 24 years? Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that a coincidence? We got married the
Wow.
same month that Cesar opened, so helps
Oh
me
my
keep
God.
track of both dates.
That is crazy.
Yeah, we got married 10 days after Cesar opened. It
It has
had it one had
nothing
nothing to do with
nothing
the
to do with
other,
it.
but it helps me remember.
Wow. Well, happy anniversary, man. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
thank you, thank you.
But,
Um, so we've been answering a lot of questions on the show lately, and I have what I think is a really good question, and I wanted to talk a little bit about baloney. And most people think that everything we talk about on the show is baloney, but this is
no.
specifically about baloney. And the question is, what exactly is bologna? Why is it sometimes spelled Bolongna if it's pronounced bologna?
Wow.
Well, that's a very good question, and I was always baffled by it as a kid too, because the package said Bologna, and we called it bologna, and I'm like, how is that bologna? Well, the short answer is because it's not pronounced bologna. Um, the what we call bologna in America, which is a processed meat that comes in a big long tube and it's sliced off and do all kinds of things with it, is based on the Italian sausage called mortadella. And mortadella is like that. It's a huge sausage made from pork generally, and it's made in the Emilia Romagna region of northern Italy, of which Bologna is the capital or is the main city. And so somehow when somebody started reproducing this in America, it was probably Oscar Mayer because they're the biggest makers of it. They probably named it after the city
Right.
of Bologna, and but as Americans are wont to do, the name gradually morphed into this Americanized pronunciation of bologna, and sometimes it's even spelled bologna,
Right.
Baloney. But it's one of those things. I mean, it's like how sherry became sherry. I mean, originally the name is actually Jerez,
Ah, yeah, right, right, right.
but it
So,
went to England, and
mhm.
they've gradually morphed into, became Jerez, Harry, Sherry, and somehow
Finlay,
somehow Bologna became Bologna.
Finlay, my boy was asking me about it. He was asking me about
Oh,
bolognese
really?
sandwich,
Yeah,
and I'm like, well, it's probably mortadella and other things. So
yeah.
how is mortadella? Is cool. It's like a ham with like big pieces of pistachio and fat, right? It's really
Right.
good.
It's a sausage, and it's absolutely delicious. And the real thing is much tastier than our American bologna. Um, and it's made from much better ingredients. I mean,
But that's the
it's
same thing. That's what it is, right? It's
right,
mortadelle.
right, right. And but it somehow got named after the city of
Yeah,
Bologna
right, right.
because that's the major place where people probably encountered this sausage
Hmm.
because it's from that area. And it's too bad. I mean, people, if people
It's too
could
bad.
taste
It's
the
too bad
real
it's made
thing,
from the.
they'd.
It's too bad it's made from this area.
Yeah. No, I was going to say it's too bad people here can't taste the real thing. I mean, they could if they went to the trouble of buying the real thing, they could taste it. It's a wonderful, wonderful sausage. It's a soft sausage. It's not a
No, it's a
and interesting,
Kenny.
bologna means something wrong or a lie. Now
No,
that I don't know how that came to be.
Kenny. This is a true sausage.
Yeah. I don't know how bologna came to be synonymous with,
I think
nonsense or
I think
untruth.
if I saw right, I saw a post from Kenny that is moving away from something.
He's moving away.
I don't know. He's moving out and he's leaving California and went to another American country.
Really? Really?
Anyway.
Well, California won't be the same without him. He's still welcome at our table anytime.
He knows.
That's the magic of doing this online is that people can be
Oh, I know.
anywhere.
It's great. Yeah. We have, I got to New Hampshire.
Really? You're moving to New Hampshire. Well, it's a very beautiful place. Been there several times.
Never been
It's
there, but I trust you.
yeah, it's beautiful. It's one of the New England states that's famous for its fall foliage when everything starts turning colors, and
Yeah,
very
right, right.
pretty place. It's right next to Vermont. They're about the same size. They're right next to each other.
Yeah, so you know,
Eh,
Kenny, you know stuff before we know it. That's great.
that's right. We could call Kenny and find out like
Yeah, the
the
news.
result of horse races and stuff, and then we could make a lot of money. What a great idea. We'd call him and say,
Oh.
"Hey, who won the NBA finals? We're going to place a bet."
So, James, you have some interesting questions today, right?
I do have some interesting questions.
I mean, fun. I was going to say fun.
Oh, fun. Did we talk about this one? Is vodka really made from potatoes? I mean, I
Uh,
know we've talked about it in the past.
no, we didn't like recently, no. So yeah, this is a good one. But I know you have some good superstition question that
We
we
have some
love.
superstitions too, but
That's something we've done in many podcasts, and we love doing those because it's interesting, right? It's something that people don't talk about much, but
yeah.
it's ingrained into the culture, really, right?
Well, in almost every culture in the world has some sort of food superstition. Well, they have a lot of superstitions, but a lot of them have to do with food. Well, let me finish the vodka question because a lot of people say this to me in the bar. They think that vodka was originally made from potatoes and that the only true vodka is made from potatoes.
Right.
And that's just not true. Vodka can be made from potatoes. There are still some brands that make it out of potatoes, but it wasn't the original one. Vodka was made far longer than anybody had potatoes in Europe. They didn't come over uh, till long after Columbus. I mean, it wasn't even the first thing brought back, and so it was. They were making vodka for hundreds of years
Right.
before they had potatoes. Basically, vodka can be made like most spirits. It can be
Most
made out of
actually,
any kind of carbohydrate that you can
that
ferment.
right.
So it's typically made from grains, but you
Right.
can easily make it from potatoes. There's even a French vodka that's made from wine,
From grapes.
uh, or from
From
grapes.
grapes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from grapes. Yeah. Um, and so yeah, and another common misconception is that flavored vodkas are a new invention, that it's some sort of modern thing that has nothing to do with history, but that's not true at all. In fact, Peter the Great, that one of the great czars of Russia, routinely flavored his vodka with chilies and citrus and other flavoring seeds and all
Right.
kinds of
Right.
things. And that was
which
very
which
common practice. So it's not a
which
new
is
thing.
which is basically a gin, kind of.
Right. Yeah, it's almost like you're
So
making gin. Yeah.
gins are botanical, right? That's why there's a name.
Right.
One of the gin brand is called Botanique. It's really what it is, the botanical.
Right. Although when you make gin, you make the spirit and then you
Right.
distill it again with the
Yeah.
aromatics, with the
Right.
botanicals in it, so it
Right.
really infuses it. Peter the Great would just take a carafe of vodka and put various stuff in it and let it soak for a while and then
Yeah,
drink
but
it.
Peter was great, man.
Yeah, that was his last name.
Yeah,
His middle name was the
he was a great Peter, the great Pierre, le grand
the
Pierre.
Grand Pierre. Yeah. Um,
That's
I mean, most Russians might tell you that there were no great czars, that they were all, you know, elite dictators, but Peter did a lot of good things for the country. So did Catherine the Great, who I believe succeeded him. I don't know. I'm not totally up on my Russian history, but
well, you know what Tsar mean, right?
it derives from Caesar.
Right, like just like Kaiser. Kaiser is the
Kaiser,
same.
Caesar,
Kaiser is Caesar. It's the
Shaw,
head.
the
It's the
Shaw
head.
of Iran,
Right.
that derives from Caesar as well.
It's the head.
Yep, yep.
And he lost it anyways. That's right.
But in the end, he lost his head.
So you get
Well,
a name for it, and then you lose it. That's perfect.
was it Kipling
But
said that
that's
if
what
you
it
can?
is. So Kaiser is the German name for Caesar. It's the same exact
Right,
name, right?
right.
It's the head. It's the chief.
The chief, the head honcho.
Yep.
I think it was Kipling who said, "If you can keep your head while all those around you are losing theirs, something, something." I don't know. I don't know if he was talking about the czars or the French Revolution,
Right.
but he was somewhere where people were losing their heads. So yeah, let's talk about food superstitions
Yeah.
because
Right. Right.
some of these are hilarious. And I have this thing here that we got somewhere, and somebody tries to offer the possible basis for some of these
I
superstitions.
know. Right.
Like, for example, in England, after you eat a boiled egg, you're supposed to push the spoon through the bottom of the empty shell to let the devil out. There's another form of this superstition that if you have two halves of eggshells, that you should crush them because otherwise the devil will get in there and float, and it has something to do with sinking ships. I mean, it's just bizarre. Um, but one possible basis for this was that the devil seeks out hard boiled eggs because the sulfurous smell of the yolk reminds him of his home base in hell. I don't
Well,
know.
that's the
I've never
thing.
really,
No, that's the thing, James. The sulfur is associated with hell.
yeah, yeah,
Always. It's funny, huh? So that's why the egg sulfur. So I just put that on. I'm not superstitious. It brings bad luck, right?
yeah. I've
This
never,
is my motto.
I've never personally been to hell unless you count rush hour on the LIE. That's pretty bad.
Oh yeah,
But actually, we got caught in traffic yesterday going to the San Rafael Bridge. It was very clear until we
yeah.
got about a half mile from the bridge, and it took us forever to get through the toll.
So it was hell. So
It was
listen,
hell. So that was hell.
there was a
Didn't smell
story.
like
There,
sulfur though.
there's this. I know this story about hell. There's this during Stalin on the Red Plaza in the Kremlin. There was two guards of the Red Army. They saw this little old Jewish guy reading the Torah, and they say, "Hey, hey, old man, you can't read the Torah in public or exhibit this in public. You may get killed." And the old man says, "Yeah, but if I die, if I see my God, I won't be able to talk to him and converse and talk Hebrew." And the guard is like, "Well, how do you know you're gonna go see your God? Maybe you're gonna go to hell." And the old guy is like, "But I speak Russian already."
Yeah, that's called covering all your bases.
Covering all your bases. Yes, definitely.
Here's another one. This is also from Great Britain. And to cut bread unevenly is a sign that you've been telling lies.
That's a sign you're drunk. That's a sign of that. In a
Well,
restaurant, if you can't do that, that's a sign you're drunk.
right. Somebody
Look,
somebody suggested that if you're
for the
telling lies, you've got the jitters, so you'll cut bread unevenly. I don't know.
for
Um,
this back. Hey, listen, I have something to show you.
uh-oh.
Where is it? Video file. Ready? That's from Fode. Look,
Oh my gosh. That's where Frody works.
that's crazy, huh?
Well, he probably doesn't actually work on that crane, but
No, he's right here. He's like he's in the helicopter.
oh, look, there's a helicopter in the
I
distance
know, I
getting
know.
ready to take off.
Crazy, huh? So this
That's
is
how
where
they get out
my
there.
ex-chef works, and he sent me that video.
And
It's
that's how Frody gets to work, is that
yeah,
helicopter. It's taken off very slowly.
because it must be so windy. Look at that. Wow.
Wow.
Look, he's making a sign. Look. Hi,
Yeah.
Fode. He's at the window.
Wow.
He's like, wait for me.
I think
That's crazy.
it's a slow
Yeah.
stream too, because those
Oh yeah,
rotors
probably.
look kind of choppy, but that
Yeah,
is
well.
crazy. That is crazy.
Well,
What a great
Fode, we
commute
got
to
you,
work,
man. We got
flying
you.
over the North Sea in a helicopter.
I know. I will not miss 580. What is that? What's
580 is
580?
the interstate that goes
Oh yeah,
next.
right.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But 580 will miss you, Kenny. Yes.
Yep. Especially me.
Um,
So sorry, I cut you on your
no, that's all right.
discovery.
That's all right. Here's another one. If you spill pepper, you will have a serious argument with your best friend.
Wow.
So the possible basis for this is really convoluted. It's this person supposed that the spill is the result of distraction over worry about some serious topic for which you seek consolation from your best friend who is not
Wow.
much help, and it leads to a
Oh
quarrel.
my God.
That's a roundabout way
What?
of trying to explain. But then somebody else added that the process can be streamlined by simply spilling pepper directly onto your best friend.
What about salt? I like the salt one.
Well, that's
That's
another one. Salt is if you spill
you know the
salt, you're supposed to
James, the
throw it
one
over your
I
shoulder.
know. What is that's crazy,
Well, that
man.
stems from, I mean, bad luck if you spill salt. Well, that stems from a time when salt was very, very expensive and it was a very
Yeah,
precious
right.
commodity. So
Yeah.
to spill salt was just, it's like losing money. And I don't know how they started throwing it over your shoulder. Maybe they thought that, um, wait, where there was one in here,
It's
somebody
funny.
addressed
It's
that.
funny. Let me talk about salt for a minute. It's funny that salt was super important. It even gave the name to celery.
Right.
Uh, so salt is very important. And recently, in the last 50 years, salt is becoming a complete evil. You need to realize that if something was good and so pricey and so looked for in the old days, just keep that in mind. It's good stuff. So
Yeah.
anybody that tells you things is bad, that was good before and now it's bad after the last 50 years, they don't know what they're talking about. Like
Right.
really, they don't.
Right.
So you need to basically, if someone who's trained in nutrition at least can give you some guidance, but not everyone in the same field. We are all nutritionists. Lisa, I know a lot of people, and a lot of people don't agree because nobody looks at the science, or they kind of look at some stuff they want to see. But if you look at the
Hmm.
science, the science, I'm talking about the science about the chemistry, not the scientific study, the chemistry. You see that you need salt all the time for every part of your body. It's super important. It's completely crucial, and you need good salt. And then when you do a super low sodium, it's just crazy. It's crazy. There's no justification for that. Anyway, whatever.
Well, and I've heard people say that they have trouble with salt because they, like from potato chips and stuff and snack
That's.
food. And I'm
I'm
like,
not.
well, your
Yeah.
problem isn't with the salt. Your problem is with the crappy snack food. I mean,
Exactly. No. Totally. Totally.
uh,
Yeah.
you'd be
No. If you
better
don't
off
eat
not
processed,
eating potato chips.
That's the thing, man. If you don't eat processed food, you can eat all the salt in the world. I mean, really, I eat so much salt, but no,
But
no,
processed food uses a lot of salt because, of course, it adds flavor.
right.
A lot of restaurants use a lot of salt. Prepared foods from
That's
like a
different.
deli use a lot of salt.
That's different. A little bit different. Okay.
Yeah,
So I earn. That's right.
I earn enough to have salt in my soup. Yeah,
You got it, man.
don't want to eat soup without salt. Yeah, people that don't eat salt or say, I don't know.
They're gonna die, so it's okay.
Well, they're gonna die anyway, so you might as well enjoy your food
They're
while
gonna do
you're
it
alive. I
faster.
mean,
They're gonna die faster.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
keep going with your sweeps. I like superstition. It's fun. It make my grandmother, my great grandmother, which I knew. Um, at night she would put drapes on the mirror. Oh no, I'm sorry. When there was thunder outside, so it was raining and there was thunder. My grandmother would go around. My great grandmother would put a big blanket or curtains on the mirror, so the devil doesn't come at night. Now it was interesting because my great grandmother and my whole family are Catholic, but I'm Jewish. So it was interesting to see all this stuff
yeah.
going on. I was like, okay, fine. Oh my God, that was so crazy.
There's so many of the superstitions revolve around the devil getting to you in some way
I
or
know,
another.
right?
It's like if you do this, the devil could get in. That's why people say bless you when somebody sneezes, because apparently there's that moment where you
Oh yeah,
sneeze where the devil can get in your body. I mean,
it's crazy, huh?
it's really crazy. In China, they say it's bad luck to pass food with your chopsticks directly
Uh,
to someone else's chopsticks. Well, that just sounds like a hygiene thing to
yeah,
me,
right, right, right.
but apparently at funerals, the bones of the cremated body are passed from person to person via chopsticks. So
What?
that's why you don't do it at the table, because it sort of reminds you of being
The,
dead.
oh wow. The bones, you mean not from the person? What are you talking
Right.
about? Oh,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how they get bones if it's a cremated person. I guess there are bits of bone in there.
it's
And
like
this
the guy
person
who.
wrote that the Chinese were very wise because it would be almost impossible to pass cremated bones from person to person using a knife and fork, because it would just fall through the fork. So you have to use chopsticks.
Damn.
Anyway,
What
that's
about?
that's that's a
Wow.
that's a very obscure one that you don't want to
Yeah.
pass food with your
How do you pass
chopsticks.
how do you pass an unburned femur
Yeah.
with chopsticks? Wow, that's like crazy.
And
You
my
make what?
question also would be, why would you want to pass food from your chopsticks to somebody else's? Wouldn't you just hand them the bowl and let them
Oh yeah.
get their own food out? I don't get that one at all. But um, in Indonesia, you want to avoid eating rice from a small plate because this will cause your close relations to spurn you.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, uh, and I
I know
guess,
there was this comic. He says, "Yeah, rice is great if you like to eat 2,000 of something."
yeah, yes.
Oh man, that was funny.
Somebody explains it saying that if you eat from a small plate, it means there's nothing for anyone else. So that's why they would spurn you. But that's not valid in Spain, home of tapas. Uh, Children should eat a lot of chicken wings if they wish to travel overseas someday. That's bizarre.
Well,
Uh,
I mean, that's the thing. In the old days, that you are, when was, those proverbs or saying was came out. A lot of them are very old, and they were into an area, where things were different and people were thinking differently. It's like
right,
when the Bible was written or the Quran or all this stuff. It was in the time where it was different, right? The mindset was completely different. So now there was no airplane, right?
right,
So it was imagination played a big role attached to the intrinsic the knowledge that was passed on by generation. There was no TV, there was no book. It
right,
was just
right.
all oral, and that's it.
You're right, Kenny, that it's considered very ill manners to put your, like, if you're eating and you have a bowl of rice, to just stick your chopsticks in it, because
Yeah,
that's a ritual that you do at funerals, and
right.
it's bad form at the table. Well, somebody supposed that this thing about the chicken wings for kids was just to get them to eat the chicken wings, because then the legs, thighs, and breasts would be left for the adults. Let the
Oh
kids eat
wow.
the wings.
Because chicken
Um,
wings is actually a super food, huh? It's a super healthy food.
yeah,
It's except when you start to put barbecue sauce on it. But otherwise, if you put like a nice, nice sesame oil, that's great. You can do olive oil, or you can just fry them
right,
like this. You can put some
right.
lemon. You can do a butter and Franks. You know the Franks. The
Mm-hmm.
what is that? How
You
do you
mean
call
little
that sauce?
sausages? You mean?
No, no, no. The Frank's sauce, which makes
Oh, like a steak
the
sauce.
yeah. No, no. It's a hot sauce.
Oh,
The buffalo wings.
oh, right, right, right.
It's the frank and the butter. That's healthy. That's super healthy. That skin of the chicken is super healthy. This is glycine. This is for your skin. People just, you know,
And so many people don't cook chicken with the skin on. They think that
yeah,
that's somehow unhealthy, like there's too much fat or something.
crazy.
They're
That's crazy.
crazy.
It's
We
not fat,
we
first of
do it
all. It's a very little fat.
right. We do it so that the skin crisps up, and we sometimes it'll
Yeah,
fall off the thighs. So
but
we leave it on the pan and we let it really get crisp, and that's kind of an appetizer before we eat it.
absolutely.
It's so
Yeah.
good. It's so
Last time
delicious.
I was trying to some of my students, not the vegans, but some of my students, they were here and we had a special event, and what we bought is we bought some chicharrones,
Oh
but
yeah.
really high quality one.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it was so good. And I try to tell people that this is actually a really good food. It's
Yeah.
the skin of the pig that is lightly fried. It's beautiful stuff. It's
Yeah.
a great fat. It's a
Mm-hmm.
great snack.
You're right, Kenny. Salmon skin is great too. We always crisp that up when we cook salmon. We'll cook
If
it.
it's not farmed, if it's not farmed, if it's a wild salmon, yes, eventually.
Yeah. This one is really bizarre, and apparently this is also from Indonesia. A person who chews gum at night eats the flesh of a dead body. Um, the
What?
possible basis for this, the
Gum
person
like
wrote, "Who cares? Just don't do it. Why would you chew gum at night?" I mean, I assume they mean not when you're asleep, but I think I never chew gum. I find
yeah, me
gum
neither.
chewing
I don't
really
chew gum.
annoying. It's
But I
a
used to.
it's
I've done when I was a kid, and I lost it in my bed, and I ended up finding it in my hair. I've seen that,
is
right?
that what happened?
I think so.
Ah,
So there's a lot that fell on this part.
yeah. This one everybody's heard, that garlic wards off vampires and the curse of the evil eye.
That's again, that's a sulfur.
Yeah.
Has to do with sulfur and that smell. It's crazy, huh? How
Garlic
do
is a
even
very
how do even people know that under the ground is sulfurous because of some of
yeah.
the areas have been seen, right? But how does everybody know about it? Why is it such a common knowledge that sulfur is associated with the devil? You know what I mean?
I
It's like it's
yeah.
you know
Well, I suppose once you make up a story about the devil, I mean, there's no end to it. You want to make him as mysterious and evil and, uh, creepy as possible. So having him smell like sulfur, which is usually not
right. Volcanic.
volcanic
That's
gases from
yeah.
caves. Yeah,
And
this probably
and
came
also
up from the
and
earth,
and
and
and lava, fire
yeah.
coming out of the mountain. That's from the inside of the earth. So yes, that's
Well, that's why the theory that hell is,
right.
eternal fires and
Yeah,
uh
right.
I don't know. I that I've never understood the whole burning for eternity thing, because I think, well, first of all, if you went into the hot magma, you would burn up and dissolve and you'd be gone. But just suppose for a second that you remain intact and that this is burning. You'd think eventually you'd get used to it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I just
Right,
I've always had trouble with the whole
exactly right.
concept.
And that would be a new energy source that we could
Right.
tap into. I mean, if we
Right.
So James,
Uh,
who's this guy who said, if I get cremated, I'll eat a bunch of raw popcorn before that happens? What?
in India, apparently garlic means garlic in Sanskrit means slayer of monsters. I mean, this every culture
Wow.
has some theory about garlic, and it could be just the fact that garlic is so good for you. It's a natural antibiotic, and it it and a, it it wards off a lot of illness. So maybe the idea that it keeps the evil eye at bay, it keeps you healthy.
Yeah. So the
It's
thing
kind
with
of the
garlic
same.
that's interesting, James, is the fact that you can see that any civilization in the world use garlic and onion.
Yeah,
Some of them have ginger as well, but garlic and onion is the most used element vegetables in the world, right? It's one of the things that you can always see in recipes after all these
yeah,
years. It's phenomenal that you can see that it's been recognized as a must food. Now we lost the ability to understand why today, but the truth is, yeah, it is. Food was medicine before. So when I say that is because when you eat food before, in the old days, it had to feed you, keeping you from being sick, making you warm, and all this stuff. It was one package. It was one goal. Now you just eat because you eat. There's no goal. You just eat because you have to. Now
right.
in the old days, it was different. You had to eat for every many different reasons, and you could not eat every day. But one thing you could see all the time is garlic and onion. It's interesting, huh? And that's
Right.
worldwide. This is for every civilization, every diet.
Yeah, and today you don't have to work for your I mean you have to work to make money to buy
Yeah,
food, but it's you
but it's universal. Yes.
you know
Yeah,
you
right.
can you it doesn't you don't have to go off in search of your food. You can buy it. In fact, nowadays, of course, you can sit on your sofa and call and have food delivered to your door.
That's the problem.
It's too easy to eat today.
The problem is you're not supposed to pick your food. You don't decide. This is a new concept that was
Right.
born right after the revolution, but you don't decide your food.
Yeah.
You mean for the public, of course. You eat
Yeah.
whatever is available, and everybody eats the same. There's no special diet or anything. You all eat the same. The group eat the same thing, right?
Right.
So it's very unsoothing to not have to challenge or to fight for anything anymore. And that's why we have a civilization of weak people. I mean, you can see people are weaker and weaker, even in their mind. They're just like, oh yeah, well, no, because we need to go back to that. You need to challenge yourself on
Yeah.
every level, and that's a daily thing. Every day is a new challenge. You need to go and do physical activity. You need to go to the gym. You need to go for, this is what you need to do.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen someone in the grocery store with
Yeah, you
big
can. You
a
can. You
big
can tell me.
I
Tell me.
can?
Tell me.
Oh, well, many, many times I've seen somebody in the grocery store with a big shopping cart and they have one thing in the basket, like a loaf of bread or
Right.
something, and they're just too weak to carry that through the store, and they'll push the shopping cart out to their car. And it's not just older people either. It's I've seen
Yeah.
people that look a lot younger than me that just can't carry a bag. They can't pick something up. They just look
I think
like,
they don't want to because I think they can. But
well, I'm sure they could, but they just don't. They don't want to
yeah,
move. People don't want to move. They want to just
they need
sit
to
and
change. People need to challenge themselves. Challenging yourself will bring the dopamine in a right level that we're missing. Instead of a quick fix from looking at your social media and get excited about things,
yeah,
you need to go back to that, to that real life when you go to the nature and you see your family and you're excited. You see your friend, you cook, you make a meal and you think about it and you're able to do it and you offer to people. This is a whole process that is beautiful. It makes you healthy, it makes you strong. But just tapping on your food, ordering stuff and commanding people, that makes you weak. So basically my thing is comfort will make you weak, weaker and weaker and weaker. So
yeah. Yeah.
it's a, it's a,
And you
it's a
know what?
great.
And there's another problem too. The other extreme is if you watch television, the commercials make you think that the only way you can be healthy, exercise only means like the most extreme, you've got to be kickboxing, you've got to be
No, no,
climbing the face of a mountain,
right,
you've got to
no.
be, riding in a, it doesn't have to be like that. You can go out and take a walk, take
And
the
don't forget,
stairs at work
right,
instead of taking the elevator.
and don't
Walk
forget
your dog.
all the things they tell you to take every day, like once a day, Aleve or
Right,
Tylenol or once
right.
a day. No, 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 no. What once a day? That is, you can't do that. You can't take medicine once a day. That is completely ridiculous.
Yep, yep,
Um.
yep.
Ah, wow.
I made a elote for my 92-year-old Southern Grand last night. She lattes, homemade teriyaki and Japanese pickles. I'm coming to Kenny's house for lunch. Teriyaki salmon. Dang.
I'm coming to Kenny's house.
What are we going to do when you move to New Hampshire? I mean, that's a long way to come for lunch.
He already moved, I think.
Oh, he's
No,
already in New Hampshire.
I don't know. Yeah, he's moving. Maybe he's texting and driving right now. This is not good, Kenny.
he's he's in he's in about Iowa right now, and he's making all this up. He's just fantasizing about teriyaki salmon.
Oh, look at the yeah, Frode. I bet you have salmon every day.
No, he has one sit up every day.
Ah, one sit up. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah, when he gets up, right? Frode, when you get up,
Right.
that's just sit.
When I get up in the morning, I sit up and I stand up, and that's it. That's
Until night, and then what? You sit down?
yeah. There's another superstition. I've heard this one many times. Like, you should never give someone a knife for a wedding gift or a birthday gift
No, you should
because it.
never throw a knife at a wedding. Unless you have a problem with the groom or the bride, right?
Yeah. Uh, yeah. However, you can counter this good luck as saying a penny a person never.
Oh, you're in Tennessee. Wow. I want to check it out, man. I know the
They are
people say,
already
oh, it's very
confused about
religious over
food
there.
after one day. Tennessee.
Really? That sucks.
Never been to Tennessee. I've known a lot of people from Tennessee.
Yeah.
I've known a lot of people in the food business from Tennessee. Oh, this is interesting that, the whole salt thing about spilling salt. In Germany, it goes back to the Last Supper, because some people think that in the Last Supper, Judas is knocking over the salt cellar. I don't know. I've seen the Last Supper, but I don't recall that there was a salt cellar, but maybe there
Have they?
was.
Did you see how they were painted though? They were painted on one side of the table. They don't eat normally. Like everybody is eating on one side of the table, so they could be in the painting or in the picture.
Right. That's the famous Leonardo da Vinci quote, is he said, all right, if you guys all want to be in the picture, you're going to have to get on the same side of the table.
Uh,
Yeah, but we all know that the whole salt superstition just came from the fact that, like you said, salt was a precious commodity, and
yeah.
spilling it was
It's a
was
commodity. It's a commodity. It's a necessity.
yeah,
It's to like it's
right.
people feel it. Yeah. When we so in France, when we were working in the south of France, when we were there for the summer and stuff, or even in the winter, we had. I don't know if you've ever seen here those salt block. You've seen those
Yeah.
that you put in field, and then the goats and the animal they come and they lick that all day long.
Yeah.
You've seen those, huh? It's
Yeah.
crazy, huh?
Yeah. Salt
So
licks, they're called.
we had those in the field, and we put that, and you could see the animal would come and lick those like so they you need that, you love it, right?
I think that was DiCaprio.
What the
Is he
cow?
talking? Oh. Here's an interesting one. This is now, Kenny, you'll probably hear this one in Tennessee, because apparently this one's from the southern United States. If a man and a woman pour tea together, they'll conceive a child in a year. Now, apparently people in the South don't understand how children are conceived, because yeah, I think someone's got to sit them down and have a talk.
So this
Um,
is how we're gonna do that. How many kids do you want?
we're going to start with the birds and the bees, and then we're
And
going to
we're gonna
work our
move
way up
to
to rabbits,
to like books and
Yeah. If you break open an egg and it has two yolks, someone close to you will get married or have twins. I mean, it's what's incredible is that there was a time when people actually believed this stuff. You ever
that's the
heard that in
thing.
20? Oh, well, maybe you're right. Maybe it's Carolinas. Maybe they know how to make babies in Tennessee.
It's all Caroline's fault.
Yeah.
But James, the superstition is based on our uprising as a humans, because basically you have to remember that a long time ago, when the night used to come every night, people were very scared.
Yeah.
So humans have always been fearful of the dust, because then night comes in and all the brain is like crazy. So you had to imagine all this stuff. And lots of the superstition was born because you had to explain those things. Now that have been explained since then, like the physics and the chemistry and so now we can understand more. But
Right.
in the old days, there was no explanation. So we had to find something to say to, and it was more like a coincidence, right? It was
Right.
like, well, something happened here and this happened here. They must be
Yeah.
correlated.
They
It's a
must be
correlation.
related. Yeah.
And that's what they
Well,
say,
and it's hard for people to understand today, but even 100 years ago and more,
right.
um, night nighttime was a scary
Oh,
time.
yeah, right.
There were no street lights. There were no headlamps on your car because you
Well,
didn't
there was
have a
street light
car.
only in area where people were paying for it.
But at one point there wasn't even that. I mean, eventually they had gas street lights, like
Right,
say
right.
in London, but
Yeah,
there was a
yeah.
time when they didn't. But if you lived in a small village in the
Oh, yeah,
countryside, nighttime was dark. I mean,
yeah,
it was even unsafe to walk the roads at night
yeah,
because you could fall into a ditch
yeah, right.
um
Yeah,
and so it was scary. So people made up all, like you say, they were, if you were lying awake at night, you'd think up all kinds of crazy stuff.
and it
And
was reassuring to have some type of structure. That's why they put those into stone, and it was repeated along the years to make sure that the kids understand that don't do this because of that and don't do that. So that was the learning, right? But
right.
it happens to be completely wrong. But that's so now we
And
have
today
all
we
these
think
old
about,
stories,
oh, it's nighttime, let's go out. Let's go out and do something. We'll go
right?
out to eat.
Because
We'll
you
go
can't
out here.
stay home.
In those days, you
Yeah,
nighttime was, you closed the doors, you
yeah.
closed the shutters, and you hunkered down in your house and you kept safe. And um yeah, it was a scary time, so they made up a lot of things, and of course they didn't understand how nature worked really. There were people that studied nature and studied herbs and studied all that stuff, but most people were just ignorant as hell, and they just didn't understand how anything worked.
Because it's a
So
it's a group thinking. There's
yeah,
no you don't have a individual thinking. There was no. It's just group thinking. So whatever the group was, exposed to, or what was their stories, that was the group. It's a group psychology. That's all.
yeah, and it's still, I still see it today. Thor and Odin
Oh
spoke
yeah,
thunder and
right.
lightning for the Vikings when they were angry. Yeah, yeah.
And then
Well,
when you
that's why, I
die,
mean,
you
the
go
the
to
Romans, I mean, gosh, they had all these, the Romans, the Germans, the Scandinavians, they had all these myths created about how thunder worked, how the tides worked,
yeah. And
how
so when
crops grew.
we're not going to go into that today because it's a super long discussion, but you have to remember that all religion are based on the same origin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Long time ago, and they kind of branched it out, and people made their own little adaptation. But when you look at the origin, there, it's all from very, very old. The I don't know how many religion talk about the Great Flood, right?
Right.
Because we have stuff that happened in Earth for sure, and people have counted that in different, with different stories, but it's the same story originally. Must have been a flood somewhere 20,000 years ago somewhere, and there was many of those. So
Sure.
anyway,
Yeah. Well, and it was important to explain this stuff somehow.
exactly.
Um, and it was hard
It's,
for people to deal
it's
with, and
especially
people
the
still do
thunder.
it.
especially the thunder and the volcanoes and stuff. Those are that would be explained because otherwise it is too scary that nature does the what do does whatever they want. So it has to have an explanation. So cause and effect was very important for the human
Hmm.
brain. It has to
Right.
understand that if you stop doing something, that will stop, but that's not true. So if you chant, you have rain, or if it's too rainy, you chant for that. It's like it's weird. Like you always ask for something. If everybody's praying together, who's quitting the
Yeah. Um, and today, I mean, baseball players have rituals that they go through because they think if they don't do this ritual, they won't be able to hit the ball, or and you see guys come to the bat and they have these elaborate things they do with their gloves and their bat, and my wife even sometimes will say to me, oh, don't say that. I'll say, oh,
Yeah, right.
I haven't had a cold in 2 years. Oh, don't say that. And I always tell her, look, if that worked, uh, how many times have I said I wish I had $1 million? I mean, if just saying something out into the universe made it happen, um, a lot of good and bad things would have happened to me by now. But people do, and actors. Oh my God, there's so many superstitions in the theater. You don't say Macbeth in the theater. You say the
Why?
Scottish play,
Wow.
because there
What
were
happened?
so many superstitions revolving around Macbeth, that people would die during
Wow.
productions and all kinds of crazy stuff would happen. So you don't whistle in the theater. There's all
Wow.
kinds of things. You don't say, if you're opening a show, you don't say good luck, because that's bad luck to wish somebody good luck. So the superstition is that you wish the reverse of what you want to happen, and that's why actors
Because
say
it's
to
the
one
work.
another, they say break a leg.
Break a leg is like an old one
Yeah,
because
and you don't really want them to break
right,
your leg. You're
right.
saying it so that the opposite will happen, and they'll be healthy
Yeah.
and they'll go on and they'll be successful. So it's so funny in these superstitions, and of course they're all nonsense, but people adhere to them. And in the theater, these traditions are very, very much adhered to.
Well,
People
that's
get
why in
really
food, yeah,
crazy about it.
that's why you have so many in food because food is the
Yeah,
principal, one of the principal event that we do all the time, twice a day,
right.
3 times a day. So there was a lot of superstition about food and like
And
lots
it
of
was so
superstition.
easy to make a correlation between the things, because like you say, the food things you were doing every day, and 200, 300 years ago, your food activity didn't vary from day to day. You pretty much did the
Right.
same thing because you only had a
Yeah.
set amount of
hmm
ingredients.
And also, it was very easy to kind of see because basically you're, like you said, you're eating. We didn't have many choices in the old days. I remember my mom telling me what she was eating when she was young in the winter. In the winter, they were eating a lot of bacon, a lot of eggs, a lot of butter and cream, and then uh, collard, cabbage,
Hmm.
salad, carrots, and root vegetables. There was
Right.
nothing else.
Things that
There
you
was
could
nothing else.
store. And that was people had cellars, and you kept carrots and
Oh
apples
yeah,
and cabbage and stuff in your cellar because it would keep.
yeah.
Um, I know people that still do that. I don't like to do it because I think it's sort of silly, but I'd rather just taste the pasta to see if it's
Yeah, I
done.
know. Why would you do that? It's so just weird.
Well, and like you say, if it sticks to the wall, that doesn't prove anything except that it's sticky. I mean,
Yeah,
but yeah, if your part of your food ritual was to every day you made bread,
yeah. Right.
which was true. I mean, in especially
Break the
like
bread.
in
What is what?
England and Europe, I mean, you made bread every day. And if you cut that bread open and there was a big hollow space in the middle, and then something happened, well, you'd
Yeah,
correlate the
yeah,
two, and
yeah,
you'd
yeah,
say, oh, well, if there's a air pocket in your bread, then
yeah.
something bad will
The
happen to
devil is watching
somebody.
for something because the
The
devil is
devil's
always.
Yeah, the devil got in there.
And have you noticed that the devil can be the same entity in all the religions?
Yeah,
There's always a devil somewhere, or a hell,
right,
or a heaven.
right, right.
They're all different, but they're all there.
And how you avoid one and get to the other varies from religion to religion, but it's kind
hmm
of all the same. And it's really just a way of helping you get through the night. I mean, it's
Yeah.
It's religion was what did John Lennon said, whatever gets you through the night. And it's true. I mean, for a lot of people, religion is just the thing that allows them to not go insane because they think that it's all being taken care of.
Because when the night comes, they didn't know if the day was going to go back.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
that
What if
day
the
kept him coming back and save with the baker's sleep. I don't know.
French, what is the term in France? Space where the baker sleeps. The baker
I
probably
don't know.
sleeps right next to the oven.
Well, he sleeps just above. That's usually the boulangerie. The boulangerie is downstairs, and because when we were in a, so we spend a lot of time in the summer in a village or in a farm. That was all the summers like this. And when we were in the village, at 3 o'clock, you could smell the bread start being made.
Hmm.
So you could smell the yeast because what it does is it does at 2 or 3, and then the whole village you could smell it. So with my sister or my brother, sometime we'd get up to go see the baker and get the bread at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock. We'd get up because of smell,
Hmm.
and we could go in the village. We could go by ourselves because nobody cared, right?
Right. There was no danger.
No, no, no. And we'd go to the boulangerie, and we only thing we had to be careful is the pétrin, the big how do you call this? The food the food mill, the thing what
Oh,
it's
oh,
called the
the
pétrin,
where you
the
grind the
mixer, the big
flour.
mixer, right?
Yeah.
Because no, the mixer to make the dough,
Oh, the
to make the dough.
mixer.
So they had a big mixer, but there was no protection before. You could fall in there
Yeah.
very easily. Like right now, there's all this stuff, but
Yeah,
in
they
the
have a
old days,
cage around it now.
yeah, yeah, in the old days you could not. So that was the only thing that was we could not come too close to the mixer, but we could go in the morning and wait for him to get the first baguette out. And when that baguette would come out, we'd just eat a few and then come back home, sleep more, and get up later. Oh, it was crazy stuff.
There's nothing
Beautiful.
like bread right out of the oven,
Wow, that was amazing.
especially with some
Butter.
okay, it's a bad bake, right? But if you make the bread every single day and one day there's a big hole in the middle, well, obviously the devil was involved
Yeah,
somehow.
exactly. Because right, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
crazy, huh?
it's very crazy. Um,
But it still happened today. There's nothing's changed. The human mind is the same. We're all about scared about something. We need to have something that we're afraid of. Doesn't matter what it is.
I love that idea of an aroma that goes through the whole town. I mean, and it even happens in the city. I used to
Right.
go visit a friend of mine in Baltimore a lot when I first lived in New York. He was living in Baltimore. So I would take the train down and spend a few days with him. And we would go to the harbor place right on the harbor there in Baltimore. And they had built this, they had made it into this whole thing. There were shops and food courts, and there was a lot of good food there. But right across the bay from this whole food court thing was the McCormick Spice Factory.
Oh
And so
wow.
every day the bay,
Wow.
the harbor place would smell like whatever
Wow.
spice
Oh
they were
my God,
grinding.
that's
So there were
crazy.
some days that just everything smelled like cinnamon, and
Wow,
other
that's
days
so
it was
cool.
pepper.
So cool.
And even in New York, when I first lived in New York City and I was working down in Soho, there was a pepper importer across the street. And there were some days where the whole street would just smell like fresh ground black pepper. It was crazy.
Hey
Crazy.
James, sorry to cut you off. We have a first guest coming June 6th. Is that what's happening?
Yes, June 6th.
So who's
Dennis,
that?
his name is Dennis Ring, and he
From
is the
Ochoa.
founder and owner of Ocho Chocolate, and he's a very interesting fellow. Um, he had a whole career before with Whole Foods, and he did a lot of stuff for Whole Foods. He
This
created a
guy,
lot of
Ocho or Ochoa,
uh, Ocho, yeah, Ocho, like
like
as
this?
in Spanish for eight. Yeah, that looks like you though. Is that him?
I don't know. I
That's you.
tried to put a message, but that's not the right place. Right,
Oh.
fine.
Yeah, and so he's very interesting. He does some very interesting things with chocolate. He's really innovated the whole idea of the candy bar. I mean,
And
he
he's
makes
coming.
he's
So that's
coming
our
June.
first guest, June 6th. And you were talking about something about Memorial Day, which is what, next
Oh,
week?
Memorial Day is in 2 weeks. We will not
So.
have a show on Memorial Day. We will be memorializing all day long. Um, so we'll be here next week, and then we'll be off on the 30th, and we'll be back on the 6th with Dennis. And we've got some other guests lined
Yeah,
up we'll let you know about, but they're going to be coming on soon. Hopefully throughout July and August, June, July, and August, we'll have a bunch of guests that
good.
we've got a lot of interesting people coming on. Way more interesting than us.
Yeah.
Although I know that's hard to imagine, but you'll just have to
Well, we
trust us on this one.
you have to trust us. 5 more minutes. You want to finish with
Um,
a? How about
one
a?
of the things we had at the Shuckery, of course, because it's the Shuckery, we started with oysters, and they were so good. And we've got fresh oysters at Cesar, and it's one of the most ordered items. There's something about
Wow,
eating an
really?
oyster that just tastes like the sea.
Wow.
It's just so good. It's like swallowing a little bit of the ocean. It's just I just love them. We love to go up to when we're in Napa. We love to go to. Uh,
There you
I'll
go.
contact you for the future and let you know how
Tell
it
us how
went.
the future went.
Yeah,
Do we need to?
let
Do
us
we
know
need
what
to
we
go
can
there?
expect.
Should we go there or should we not go there?
Yeah, let me know if I'm going to get any older. What was I saying about oyster? We love to go to Hog
Yeah.
Island Oyster
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah.
just
Me too. I love that.
gorge
This is so cool.
at
Yeah.
Harrods Food Hall in London, Harrods department store. They
Oh
have a
yeah, I've been there.
huge food hall that is
Oh
just one of the
wow.
most glorious places on earth.
I've been there when I was like 14 or 15 or something.
Yeah, it's just a wonderful place, and they've got a raw bar, this whole big bar that you can sit at and order oysters and all kinds of seafood and Sydney and I, whenever we've been there, we order a bunch of oysters. We order the shrimp cocktail, which is really good. We get a bottle of Sauterne, not
Yeah.
Sauterne. We get a bottle of Sancerre,
I'm like, whoa, shit. Did you
ice
get a
cold
raise? Did you
Sancerre.
get a raise?
Yeah,
Sancerre,
it doesn't get much better than that.
one of the really good wine for actually for seafood is
Chablis.
no, it's a cheap wine from France. Oh my God,
I'm trying to think.
what's happening? Oh, okay, so
Albarino is a great one from Spain that goes with
you guys,
seafood.
I will remember that. I'm so sorry. It's a cheap wine from France that we drink. You had in Paris, we drink that a lot, or in north of France.
I'm trying to
Uh,
think what it would be. Now, you have to know that the reason Olivier forgot this is because he had a hole in his bread this morning, and the devil got in there and made him forget this wine. So he'll get it. He'll figure it out.
French wine. Oh my God, that's
French
crazy.
wine. Do they make wine in France? I've never heard of French wine.
Muscadet, Muscadet,
Oh,
Muscadet.
Muscadet. Oh yeah,
Muscadet. So
yeah.
Muscadet
From the Loire
is,
Valley.
yeah, that's what we drink. It's light, it's a little minerally, it's beautiful. It goes really well for lunch, right? It's a very
Mm-hmm.
light one. So
Yeah.
Muscadet is what you. So Sancerre is great, Chablis is great.
Anything
Muscadet
really
is,
crisp,
yeah,
just with
crisp,
really good
yeah,
acid to cut
very
through
fresh, right.
the fish. It's so
So
good,
zinc,
so good.
lots of zinc into oysters, huh? And not just zinc, B12, all kind of mineral and nutrients, great protein, amazing food. So oysters is something that you only eat once a week, just like clams. Okay,
Hmm.
tons of B12, tons of zinc, uh, lots of iodine, lots of good stuff. So it's very, very important.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's kind of a pain to, but maybe we should show them how to shuck them
yeah,
on the
that's a
show.
good idea. I've got some really good oyster shuckers.
And I got good oysters, so that's it.
Ooh,
The team is born.
yeah. Unfortunately, the oysters are at Olive's Kitchen in Oakland, and I have the oyster shucker here in Berkeley, so I don't know how that's
Vinho
going to
Verde,
work.
yeah,
But
that's good too.
Vino Verde is very good. Yeah,
Yeah,
all those crisp white wines
yeah,
go really well with raw seafood
yeah.
and fish and
Because when he
other.
was talking about Sauterne, the Sauterne, we drink Sauterne or Montbazillac with foie gras.
Yeah,
That's really good. Foie gras
Yeah.
and sauterne au Montbazillac.
Yep. Yeah. Amazing.
That is really good stuff.
Fantastique, as
All
they
right,
say
one more minute.
as they say
Fantastic.
in Bulgaria.
In Norway.
Um, yeah. So one more minute. So again, we'll be back next week on the 23rd. On the 30th, we're going to take a holiday, as will most of America. And then we'll be back on June 6th after that with Dennis Ring from Ocho Chocolate.
Don't forget this super drink that we make. Huh?
Grey
Go
Boots.
and get it at Berkeley Bowl, Montreal Market, all these places. It's really good.
Or you can
It's
order
going
it by
well,
the
actually.
glass at Cesar.
Mm.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have. Thanks
All
for
right, James.
joining
Good to
us.
see you.
We will be back.
Frode, Kenny. Good to see you guys. We'll see you next week. Have a good